Time for Raw. Alright. It's April 18th, 2016. Raw was in London, England, the O2 Arena, I believe. That was probably the note at the end of the SmackDown video from last week. So, yeah. Anyways, show starts off with the intro video, and then followed by Pyro. So we get that. I already knew about this because the little preview commercial that they play about 15 minutes before Raw starts during one of the commercial breaks of the show that comes before Raw. They usually do this, and I usually like to catch that to see, because they usually announce like the arena, the city, and they'll usually tease like a segment for the show. Well, they said that the show was going to start with the second episode of the Ambrose Asylum, and Ambrose's guest is going to be Shane McMahon. So yeah, that's what starts off Raw. Ambrose comes out to a pop, and they show a recap from last week, Ambrose crashing Jericho's shitty highlight reel and turning it into the Asylum. And so they show the recap of that. Ambrose talks a little bit. He makes a joke about Braun Strowman. He said, apparently there's something been going on in London. There was something about some river monster just out back of the O2 Arena. And he says, I didn't even know Braun Strowman could swim. So, yeah. Anyways, Ambrose introduces Shane McMahon, who comes out to a pop, and they get a Shane O'Mac chant, and a You Still Got It chant, and Ambrose segues into showing this clip from WrestleMania of the Shane and Undertaker match. And Ambrose is basically telling Shane, Shane, you're probably the only guy that could make me stop and go, holy hell, what was he thinking, So, Ambrose saying that Shane is even crazier than he is. So anyways, the two of them get to talking, whatever the fuck. Shane happens to mention Sami Zayn. He's talking about all the new stars that are getting breaks here lately on the show thanks to him. And he mentions Sami as one of them. Well, of course, just because somebody mentioned Sami Zayn, out comes Kevin Owens. And he's talking up a bunch of hot garbage. Yada, yada, yada. He gets in the ring and he keeps talking. And sure enough, Owens is talking about Sami, so out Sami comes. He comes out to a pop. And he's talking, and then out comes Chris Jericho for some fucking reason. And the four wrestlers all start kind of bickering amongst themselves. And Shane says, you know what, all this tension brewing here. Shane McMahon is in charge of Raw again, by the way. Shane says, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and announce a couple of matches for Payback in 2 weeks, the Payback pay-per-view. And sure enough, with what's been brewing between Ambrose and Jericho, they're going to have a match at Payback. As well as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are also going to have a match at Payback to settle their personal problems, their little rivalry that they have going on. And more bickering, and Shane says, you know what, it's getting a little too hot in here, I'm gonna, take off. He starts getting out of the ring, and Ambrose looks at him, he says, hold on a second. He grabs his little potted plant that he has, and he hands it to Shane. He says, take care of this, Ambrose don't want nothing to happen to his plant. So Shane takes the plant and he just kind of leaves. The four of them start fighting. And Ambrose and Sammy clear out Owens and Jericho. And we cut to a commercial break. And we find out during the commercial break, Shane decides to make this match. Jericho versus Sami Zayn. And that's happening as we come back from the commercial break. So this turns out to be a good match. Sami counters Jericho's triangle dropkick. You know, the one where he springboards off of the ropes in the one corner to drop kick the guy in the other corner, or the other side of the corner. Well, Sami ducked it, and for some reason Jericho flies out of the ring and splats on the floor. This has happened before, but it never makes any fucking sense. Jericho usually goes for a drop kick when he does this move. Why the hell would he just jump out of the ring like he was going for a crossbody or something? Why doesn't he just go for the drop kick and land on his face in the ring? Whatever. Once Jericho's down on the floor, Sami does a nice jumping up, kind of, not really a split leg, but he lands butt first on the ropes and does a springboard into a moonsault to wipe out Jericho on the floor. And we get an Olay chant from the crowd. Another commercial break. Coming back from the break, this is actually what happened as they came back from the break. Jericho suplexed Sami on the floor. Hard. They get back in the ring. Jericho goes for the walls of Jericho, but Sami just kind of flipped him to break out of it. Jericho ended up going for his lion salt, but Sami got the knees up to counter it. Sami hits his blue thunder bomb, only gets a 2 count. Sami was going for something, and Jericho countered it and caught him and put him into the walls of Jericho. I don't remember what Sami was going for. Or no. Sami jumped off the top rope, and Jericho drop-kicked him, and then just put him into the walls of Jericho. So yeah, that was the counter. Sami gets to the ropes, so you get a rope break. Okay. Another nice little exchange here. Jericho wound up on the outside of the ring, down on the floor. And Sami was, getting ready to go for a suicide dive. Well, as he goes for it, Jericho just kind of walks off, and Sami stops, and he's like, motherfucker. So Sami slides out of the ring, takes a back step, charges, dives through the corner. He does that. I've described this before, but it's always so cool when he does it. He dives through the ropes in the corner, well, not through the post, but past the post, grabs Jericho and turns it into a nice tornado DDT to plant Jericho on the floor. So he does that here. Another Olay chant. And what ends up happening, this is the finish to the match. I think it was after the DDT on the floor. Sami throws Jericho back in the ring, and Jericho ends up down in the corner, in one of the corners. Sami gets in the ring, goes to the opposite corner, getting reared back, going for the hell of a kick, right? Well, he comes charging for it, and Jericho goes down like this, and he puts his fucking head through the ropes, cowering like a punk bitch. And the referee's like, whoa, Sami, you can't attack him. He's cowering like a punk bitch. Because, the rules of WWE state that if you cower like a punk bitch, nobody can mess with you. Well, the referee is, telling Sami, whoa, hold up there, cowboy. Jericho jumps up and pokes Sami in the fucking eye. And Sami's like, fuck my eyes. He backs up. Jericho code breakers him. 1, 2, 3. Jericho wins the fucking match like a bitch. Cowering like a pussy. So it was still a good match, just really fucking weak with the cowardice in the ending. But that's what Jericho does these days. He cowers out like a punk bitch, cheats his ass off, and wins. Because, that's how you put people over, I guess. Fuckhead. Anyways, they hype up another match that was made by Shane during the commercial break earlier. Since they were getting into it during the fight, we're going to have a match between Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens, and that's going to be our main event for the night. They also hype up the next match in the tournament for the number one contendership to the tag team titles, and that's going to be the Vaudevillains in their first appearance on Raw against the Usos, who no one gives a shit about. And also, another match for the tag team title number one contendership tournament, Enzo and Cass versus the Dudleys. They hype that one up as well, and then they cut to a commercial break. Coming back from the commercial break, stupid commentators said some dumb shit. I don't fucking care. It doesn't matter. They segue into Mauro Ranallo, who for some reason is taking Renee Young's job backstage. He's interviewing AJ Styles. AJ doesn't really get a whole lot out before they look over. There's Gallows and Anderson. And they come up, they're all happy to see AJ, and AJ's happy to see them. They're all palsy-wowsy and buddy-buddy and everything, and basically, AJ tells Ranallo to fuck off. I got it from here, and they're just talking, AJ, Anderson, and Gallows. The three of them are just talking, talking about the good old days, like a year ago when the Bullet Club first formed in Japan. The Bullet Club really hasn't been around for all that long for them to be talking about it as the good old days, Like, the Clique can talk about the good old days, when they were all doped up assholes fucking over the whole business. But the Bullet Club has been around for what, 2, maybe 3 years? They're still going over in Japan and maybe Ring of Honor, but it's Kenny Omega and the fucking, what are they, the Young Bucks. Anyways, whatever. AJ and Gallows and Anderson, they talk a bunch, and AJ's like, we should really go somewhere else and talk, and all this other shit. So they fuck off, and that's the end of that segment. Cutting back to the arena, Enzo and Cass come out to a nice pop. And they go through their spiel, and they get in the ring, and Cass says, hey diddle diddle, Enzo's got a riddle. Enzo goes through this thing, I can't even remember any of it because it was so goofy. But basically, the point of it is, he calls the Dudleys duds, because the word dud is in Dudley Boys. That was his whole thing. There's the word lie in believe, and, the word end in friend. It wasn't really so much of a riddle as it was a play on words. Anyways. So yeah, but he goes through that, and then Cass does the SAWFT, soft! And then out come the Dudleys to no fucking reaction, because nobody likes these old jabronis anymore. And Michael Cole on commentary says something about, yeah, the Dudleys just celebrated 20 fucking years as a tag team. And I'm like, yeah, because neither one of them can accomplish anything on their own. They're jabronis. And don't even mention Bully Ray in TNA. That shit sucked. He was TNA heavyweight champion. He sucked. He's just a New York prick who's good at riling up a crowd. Anyways. Speaking of New York pricks, it's actually hilarious. During what Enzo and Cass were saying about the Dudleys, Enzo manages to out-New York Bubba Ray, who's actually from New York. Enzo's actually from Jersey. So, that's hilarious. Bubba got out-New Yorked by a guy from Jersey. Anyways. The match between Enzo and Cass and the Dudleys. wasn't a whole lot to this match that was really all that interesting. The Dudleys spent the first half of the match beating the crap out of Enzo because he's small. And Bubba talking trash. You know, all you do is talk. You know, how you doing now, Skywalker? He called him Skywalker because, you know, Enzo referred to himself like that in the promo when they debuted. But yeah, mostly the first half of the match was just the Dudleys beating the crap out of Enzo. And that was it. There was a commercial break. And then, of course, the hot tag comes. Bubba gets Enzo down, and he goes to the second rope, and he does his fucking jumping senton that he always fucking misses. Because nobody wants to be underneath this fat fuck when he comes crashing down. So, of course, Bubba misses his senton. Enzo's able to make the hot tag to tag in Cass. Cass kicks the crap out of both Dudleys, including giving, I think it was Bubba, a vicious boot to the dome. And then their finishing move is the rocket launcher. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Cass goes to the corner, tags in Enzo. Enzo goes up to the top rope, and Cass throws him off, and Enzo hits a nice big splash on Bubba. 1, 2, 3. Enzo and Cass get the win, and that's the end of that. Crowd pops. Cool. So, what we have seen there is basically the Dudleys just jobbed to Enzo and Cass. Like, as soon as Cass got in the ring, Dudleys were done. He beat the fuck out of them two, lickety-split, hit the rocket launcher, and Enzo and Cass win. So that's good. Then we move on. Once again, they hype up the fact Roman Reigns is here, and he's gonna be out next. Like anyone fucking cares. The crowd was even booing during this hype. That's up next, and they cut to a commercial break. Coming back from the break, Reigns' Shitty Shield remix music hits, and he comes out to a chorus of fucking boos. There was barely a cheer to be heard. It was about 90% boos. And Roman gets on the mic and he does his new catchphrase, "I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. I'm the guy." You're a guy. I don't know if you're the guy. You're carrying around that ugly belt, but that doesn't mean shit. He starts cutting this promo. He's talking, Shane McMahon's talking about this new era in the WWE. To me, it doesn't matter because no matter what, it's still the era of the Roman Empire. This draws a boring chant from the crowd. Roman starts talking about AJ. He's actually giving AJ props. You're a good technical wrestler. You're good this, you're good that. You're pretty phenomenal. AJ comes out to a pop. The crowd starts chanting AJ Styles. The two men go back and forth talking. We got a match at Payback. And, whatever the fuck. AJ says, I'm not going to lie. It's going to have to be the match of my life for me to beat you at Payback. But I've made a career out of having the match of my life. And that's won me titles before, and it's going to win me this title, the WWE World Heavyweight title. Yada, yada, yada. AJ finishes his promo, and he starts leaving. His music is playing, he starts leaving. He's halfway up the ramp, and Roman's looking at him. All of a sudden, there's the two bald guys, Gallows and fucking Anderson. They jump Roman from behind to a chorus of cheers, I might add. They beat the crap out of him, and they hit this new tag team move. This isn't the au revoir that they hit last week. This was... what the fuck was it? I'm trying to remember. The one guy had Roman up on his shoulders, and the other guy came running and booted Roman in the head, and then I think he just dropped him in a Samoan drop or something. But either way, they plant Roman with this team move, and they just leave him laying there like the bitch that he fucking is. And then they get out of the ring and they start heading up the ramp towards AJ, who's looking on like, what the fuck? You can already see it written plain as day on his face. He had no idea that was going to happen. Or at least, this is the storyline they're going to go with. AJ is going to keep saying he has no idea this shit keeps happening. And they even actually tease this a little bit later on, which I'll get to. But I may as well just save it for then. Anyways, they cut to a commercial break after this. Coming back, of course, they show a recap of what just happened, because anything that happens to Roman is worthy of a fucking recap. But yeah, right here it is. They cut backstage. There's Roman with the ugly belt. He's walking backstage. Oh. Some other interviewer guy comes up to Roman. It's not Mauro Ranallo. It's Josh Matthews 2.0 or whoever the fuck. I don't know his name. Whoever the fuck interviews whoever the fuck. He comes up trying to talk to Roman. You know, what the hell just happened? All of a sudden, AJ comes out and he's like, I had nothing to do with that. I had no idea that was going to happen. And Roman's like, yeah, sure, I'm going to believe that. Your two bald buddies attacked my cousins the other week, the Usos, and then they attacked me this week. You're going to need to stop lying, AJ, or you're going to need to change your story. And AJ's like, dude, I swear I had nothing to do with it. I don't need their help to beat you at Payback. Whatever the fuck. Bickering, end of segment. Cutting back to the arena, there's Johnny Fandango in the ring. Fandangoing, do. Anyways. He's already done with his entrance. His music is still playing, but whatever. And they say, oh yeah, we also have Dolph Ziggler over here with us on commentary. Sure enough, there's Dolph. And, of course, this segues into, because he's basically in a feud with Baron Corbin, out comes Baron Corbin, he gets his boring-ass entrance. I don't think he got any reaction from the crowd. They really didn't seem to give a fuck about him. And while he's coming out, because his entrance is so fucking boring, they show a recap of him beating the crap out of Ziggler 2 weeks ago in his Raw debut, planting Ziggler on his face with the End of Days on the floor. And Ziggler's talking about it, whatever. He's talking about Corbin the whole match, because we get a match, Fandango versus Corbin. This match was crap. It was short. It was basically a fucking squash match. Only things of note, they spill out to the outside, and Corbin grabs Johnny and chucks him across the announce table right into Ziggler. They both spill over and fall. Back in the ring, Corbin hits the End of Days on Johnny, 1, 2, 3, and Corbin wins the match. Really wasn't much to it. Ziggler, pissed off by having Johnny thrown into him, tries to attack Corbin after the match. Well, it backfires. Corbin swats him away like a fly, knocks him down. I didn't see exactly how he stopped Ziggler, but he stopped him. Throws Ziggler out of the fucking ring, hits the End of Days on the floor on him again, all the while being told that he sucks by the crowd, who were the people right there at ringside. And Corbin even acknowledged him. One of them said, you suck. And he's like, I suck? Yeah, whatever. I'm like, yeah, you do suck. You're boring. Your vest looks like it was stitched together with your own back hair. And you look like a generic jabroni with fucking ugly tattoos. Like an ugly biker motherfucker. Anyways, that's the end of that segment. We get hype for an 8-woman tag team match. Let's see. Well, it doesn't matter. It's whatever the fuck. That's going to be a little later on. We cut backstage to one of the hallways. There's The Miz and Maurice, and they're both in, like, ring gear, like they're getting ready to come out. Apparently, The Miz is going to be hosting his Miz TV segment. But they're walking down the hallway, and Maurice is like, hold on, Miz. And the camera looks down. There's a spilled drink on the floor. And Maurice is like, hold on. Some stagehand comes up, and Maurice is like, hey, you, take your jacket off and put it right there. And the guy takes his jacket off. He puts it down. The two walk over the fucking spill, and they just blow right by the guy. And then they cut to a commercial. I'm like, what the fuck is this stupid shit? Coming back from the commercial, we get the Primo and Epico video package. Come to Puerto Rico. The shining... What was it? The shining star of the Caribbean. They've gotten into a pattern with this. They show last week's new video package for Primo and Epico, and then later on they'll play another new one. That's what they do here. They play the new one from last week. Anyways, coming back into the ring, into the arena, Miz and Maurice are already in the ring. And Maurice is talking. She introduces the Miz. Miz starts talking. It's another episode of Miz TV. And I can't remember exactly how this came about, but Miz asks Maurice for a kiss on the cheek. And she does, and then he's like, now how about one on the lips? And they keep kissing, and they just start making out, just really fucking annoying. While they're in the middle of making out, Cesaro's music hits. And he comes out to a pop. He's got his suit on, with a tie this time. He's got his shades. Oh yeah. The Miz and Maurice were doing this thing where they were talking about royalty and some royal baby. They show this picture of this baby from the royal family, and they're like, this baby doesn't look like any... It looks as generic as any other baby. You see this thing walking down the street, you wouldn't think it was royalty, blah, blah, blah. So when Cesaro comes out, he opens up with, you know, the only royal thing about you, Miz, is you're a royal pain in the ass. Miz starts talking, which draws another boring chant from the crowd. And Miz starts saying, I've got this monologue prepared. You're gonna recognize it from the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, right? And of course you know the one. I don't know who you are, but I will find you, and I will kill you, you know? It is that one. So Miz takes this monologue and he Miz-tified it. His words, not mine. He goes through it, and he gets to the end of it, and he goes through the end, and he's like, nah, I can do that better. And Maurice is like, take two, and he does it again, and then he's like, take three, and Cesaro holds his hand up, and he's like, shut up. And Cesaro says, well, if we're quoting famous Hollywood actors and shit, since we're coming up on his birthday, I'll quote Roddy Piper. And he says, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And he puts his shades up, and I'm all out of bubblegum. And he tosses his mic away. And Miz is like, oh, wait a minute. I would fight you right now. He's chickening out right now. I would fight you right now, but I know that you already have a match with this man. Cue Rusev's music. Why they didn't play the League of Nations music, I don't know. Maybe it was just because it's a singles match, or it was supposed to be a singles match. But either way, Rusev's shitty music starts playing, and he comes out with Sheamus and Del Rio. They get down to the ring, and Cesaro's like, yeah, I kind of figured you might have something to say about that, so before I came out, I talked to Shane McMahon backstage. And he agreed with me. We need something better for this, so we've decided to make this into an 8-man tag team match. The League of Nations, all 3 of them, and The Miz versus Cesaro. And Cesaro says, and my tag team partners. He takes off his suit jacket and pulls off the button-up shirt. He's got a New Day shirt on, and out comes the New Day to a pop. So we've got an 8-man tag match. The League of Nations, those 3 jabronis, and The Miz versus Cesaro and the New Day, all 3 of them. Commercial break. Coming back, the match is already going. This match turned out to be alright. Few things of note here. Big E gets in the match, and he does his big running off the ropes, the big splash, and then he gets up and he looks at Maurice, who's at ringside over by The Miz, and he fucking starts gyrating at her, including a big hump thrust, and I'm like, oh my god, that's hilarious. The New Day and Cesaro start doing the unicorn stampede in the corner. I don't remember who the fuck it was on. One of the League of Nations guys. After that, Xavier Woods is the legal man for his team. He gets isolated by the League of Nations and Miz. And they're just beating the crap out of him. Commercial break. Cesaro gets tagged in and does a nice uppercut train going back and forth. He's doing it on Sheamus, who's the legal man. He gets him in his corner and he does this. He goes to the other corner to just rear back to hit the train again on Sheamus. But as Cesaro's going to the other corner, Miz gets into the ring and gets caught with a nice uppercut as he's getting in. So he's fucking nailed. So he gets hit. He goes back and forth on him. And after Sheamus and Miz go down, Cesaro goes out of the ring, and he runs over to the corner of the barricade. There's Rusev, and he fucking clobbers Rusev with a nice uppercut. And he runs across again, nails Del Rio almost into the fucking crowd with another uppercut. And Cesaro gets back in the ring. He goes to do the big swing on Sheamus. But The Miz does a nice big boot to the face on Cesaro and stops the swing before it even gets started. This prompts a big old clusterfuck, which of course has to happen in all these 8-man tag matches. The rush of finishing moves. What was it? I don't remember. But The Miz wound up eating a big finale from Big E. Just a bunch of random whatever the fuck. Big old clusterfuck. What ends up happening was Cesaro cinches Sheamus up, hits the fucking neutralizer on him. 1, 2, 3. Cesaro and the New Day win the match. Like I said, it was an alright match. Okay. We cut backstage, once again, the interview area, and there's Mauro Ranallo again. And he says, my guests at this time, WWE Women's Champion Charlotte and her father Ric Flair. And as they're coming up, we get a recap from last week, the title match between Charlotte and Natalya, showing, of course, Natalya had Charlotte in the sharpshooter. Rick pulls the referee out, and Charlotte starts tapping out, and of course all that bullshit, whatever the fuck. Charlotte and Rick are like, whatever the fuck. I didn't have to beat Natalya, she's gotta beat me to become champion. Up comes Natalya. And she says, I was just talking with Shane, and he agrees with me, since you bullshitted your way through our match last week, Shane's giving me a rematch for the title at Payback. And since you always like having your daddy Rick in your corner, I'm going to have somebody in my corner at Payback. Bret Hart. So they're bringing Bret back to be in Natty's corner. I can just imagine how bad this is going to be. It's just going to be Bret and Flair throwing handbags at each other. Whatever. If it keeps Flair distracted long enough to keep him from interfering in the damn match and helping Charlotte win again, we might just have Natalya walk out with the... I keep wanting to call it the Divas title because it doesn't matter if you change the name of the title or change the belt or change the name of the division. These bitches are still acting like divas. And the matches still haven't gotten much better. Whatever the fuck. After that whole interview segment, they cut to a commercial break. And this, coming back from the break, we get the 8-diva tag match that they hyped up earlier. Natalya comes out first to a pop, followed by Becky Lynch, who also gets a pop. Followed by Paige, who gets a bigger pop since they're in her home country of England. Followed by Sasha Banks, who... she got a smaller pop. And the heel team, Naomi and Tamina, come out together to Naomi's shitty fucking music, Team Bad. Followed by Summer Rae, who comes out by herself. Followed by Charlotte, who comes out with Rick. They basically all got no reactions, or booed. Because nobody really fucking cares about these chicks. So we get the face divas versus the heel divas. This match was not so good. Once again, just like in the title match last week between Natalya and Charlotte, Charlotte starts off by hitting the ropes and then going woo into Natalya's face. Natalya's just standing there like, bitch, put 'em up, we're gonna fight, you know. Why she didn't just slap Charlotte in the face or punch her in the fucking tits or something, I don't know. All of a sudden, Charlotte backs into her own corner and just kind of puts her hands back, and Summer Rae's on the apron like, yeah, I want some, and she tags in. So Summer comes in, and she basically starts the match with Natty. Later on, Naomi got into the match, and I believe she was in there with Becky. She does this move, and I had to say to myself, what the fuck was that? I said that out loud. Because I had no idea what the fuck this was or what the hell it was supposed to be. Naomi came running at Becky and grabbed her like she was going to do that thing where the chick runs at her and grabs her and swings around and like plants her head into the mat. But Naomi went down and landed on her ass and didn't bring Becky all the way down. Becky just kind of doubled over. And then she took a bump, and I was like, what the fuck? That's not gonna hurt somebody. What the fuck was that? I'm surprised nobody in the crowd didn't yell that out. I would've. Naomi is shit. Pure fucking shit. And those stupid light-up sneakers she wears are hokey as fuck. I'm telling you right now, bitch, those things look like shit. You dress like shit, so fuck you. Anyways, there were a couple of dives done by, let's see, I think Paige dove on somebody on the outside, followed by Becky. Yeah, Becky dove on somebody too on the outside. Commercial break after that. And coming back from the commercial, I think this is how it happened. The heels had isolated Becky, and they were beating the crap out of her. And Michael Cole says, yeah, the heels have just been wearing Becky Lynch out. And I'm thinking, I'd like to wear Becky Lynch out. Anyways, this match ends much the same as the other 8-man tag match. Big old clusterfuck of bitches throwing each other all over the place. They all get cleared out. Natalya locks the sharpshooter in on Charlotte. Charlotte taps out basically immediately. Ding, ding, ding. Match is over. Natalya wins for her team. The face divas win. They celebrate. They're all standing on the, the corners and everything. Whatever the fuck. Next up, we get a recap from earlier of Roman having his shit pushed back in by fucking Gallows and Anderson, as well as the little talking segment between AJ and Roman backstage that happened after the beating. Yada yada yada. This segues. We see AJ, Gallows, and Anderson in a backstage area. They're talking amongst each other, but it's another one of those where we can't hear what they're saying. And then we crash cut over. There's the Usos and Shane McMahon talking. Again, can't hear what they say. But the Usos are going to have a match up next. And that's up next. And they cut to a commercial break. And then I have it written in my notes. I don't know why I wrote this down, because it has nothing to do with the show. But during this commercial break, they showed a commercial for this show. I believe it's on the USA Network. It's called Mr. Robot. If you haven't seen this show, you probably should. The only reason I wrote it down is because I'm surprised they let this show on TV. Not because the show is bad, because the show's not bad. It's just what the show is about. I can't believe they allow that on TV. Anyways, moving on. Coming back into Raw, the new Epico and Primo video package. After that, big WWE logo on the fucking screen, and it's covered up by curtains. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And then finally it dawns on me, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's the Vaudevillains. This is their entrance. It goes all black and white, this old-timey stuff, and yeah, this is their entrance. The Vaudevillains come out, and they're all doing this number, and fucking... They come out, followed by the Usos, who come out. Again, they basically get no reaction other than the Uso thing and the whatever. And we get the match between these two teams. And this match was alright, and the right team won, thank God. What ends up happening, even though the Usos almost basically dominated half of the match, what ends up happening is one of the Usos gets thrown out of the ring and then thrown into the barricade at ringside by one of the Vaudevillains. And the other Uso comes running across the ring, diving through the corner, out of the ring, and he dives on top of the Vaudevillain guy. I don't remember if it was Aiden English or Simon Gotch. It was probably Simon Gotch. But yeah, he dives through the corner and dives on top of him, wipes him out, but he lands on his shoulder on the way down. And this is the Uso who had his shoulder hurt last week. So he's hurt after that. He goes to get back into the ring. The other Vaudevillain guy grabs him and rams him from the apron into the shoulder, the corner post, shoulder first. So he rams that. And then what ends up happening is the Vaudevillains hit their finishing move, which is called the Whirling Dervish. Basically what it was is, I believe it's Gotch, gets the guy set up for a neck breaker, and then he turns around and European uppercuts him in the back of his head, which knocks him forward, and then English comes charging into a running, spinning neck breaker. So, not exactly the most unique or original finishing move, but it was an interesting combo. They hit their finishing move, they get the 1, 2, 3. The Vaudevillains win. And they're doing their posing and all this other shit, you know. And I happen to notice that in the finals for the tag team tournament for the #1 contendership to the tag team titles, we have an all NXT finals. Enzo and Cass versus the Vaudevillains. So, yeah. Anyways, after that, we get hype for Ambrose and Owens, the main event. And then the commentators segue into a video package for Apollo Crews. They're really trying to hype this guy up. And at this point, it's coming off as the next Roman Reigns. Being pushed way too hard, way too fast. And he's just this generic babyface who smiles a lot for some fucking reason. This was about 10:30, by the way. I actually happened to catch the timestamp. Cut to a commercial break. Coming back from the break, the social retards are in the ring. And we find out that it's going to be Heath Slater who's facing Apollo Crews. Well, out comes Apollo Crews, and while he's coming out, they show a video from earlier. I think they said it was during the Raw pre-show. It was backstage. The social retards were trying to recruit Apollo Crews into the social outcasts. And basically, what Crews says to him, if one of you can beat me, I'll join ya. But if not, you guys have to leave me alone forever. That's basically all it was. So we get this match between Heath Slater and Apollo Crews, which was an okay match. Although, once again, it was basically just a squash match. Couple of, well, one little thing of note. Crews, I think what it was is Slater went to throw Crews over the top rope to the floor. Well, Crews landed on his feet on the apron. And it was Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel because, if you didn't know, Adam Rose got suspended for violation of the wellness policy, along with somebody else. But they got suspended for violation of the wellness policy, and Bray Wyatt is injured. He got injured at some house show or something. So anyways, Apollo Crews is on the apron. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas are over there on the floor getting ready to grab him or whatever. Apollo does a fucking moonsault, standing moonsault from the apron. He doesn't springboard off of the ropes or nothing. Jumps off the apron, moonsault, lands on the two social retards, wipes them out, but he lands on his feet. And he slides back in the ring and goes back to beating the crap out of Heath Slater. He gets Slater up, does his spin out, sit out powerbomb, 1, 2, 3. Crews wins. Crowd's dead afterwards, by the way. Crews is celebrating, yada yada. He starts going up the ramp to leave. Kevin Owens' music hits. And he starts coming out. And he just barely gives a passing glance to Crews as Crews is making his way up the ramp. So I don't know if that's foreshadowing for later. Like maybe they're setting Crews up for a feud with Owens. That probably wouldn't be terrible, I guess. Anyways, so Owens comes out, and they cut to a commercial break. Coming back from the commercial break, they hype up The Miz TV segment will return on SmackDown this week, and he will be interviewing AJ Styles, so I can only imagine what kind of clusterfuck that's going to end up with. Cutting back to the arena, Ambrose comes out to a pop, and we finally get our main event, Owens versus Dean Ambrose. Good match to finish up Raw. Give him the credit there. Few highlights. Ambrose hits a nice suicide dive. Owens throws Ambrose over the commentary table. Ambrose fights back quickly and then throws Owens over the commentary table. Commercial break. Ambrose wound up on the outside of the ring, over on the other side, over by the ramp and the aisleway. And Owens goes to the apron and frog splashes off of the apron on top of Ambrose, who's laying on the floor. So big, just splat. He hit it. He hit it all right, and it looked like it knocked the wind out of fucking both of them. After that, they were in the ring, Ambrose went up to the top rope to go for his, they call it the lunatic fringe elbow, where Ambrose will just dive off the top rope and come crashing down with this elbow on his opponent who's standing up. Like normally you'd drop an elbow on somebody who's laying down. Well, Ambrose, it's almost more of a clothesline than an elbow drop, but he hits it on them while they're standing. Well, he goes up to the top rope, and Owens sees it, and he rolls out of the ring. Well, Ambrose is like, fuck this, and he just turns over, and he dives on Owens on the outside of the ring and wipes him out there. Back in the ring, Owens and Ambrose were going back and forth with forearm shots and elbow shots, and again, goofy setup. I think Owens hits the elbow on Ambrose, and he just kind of staggers back, and he goes through the ropes. He does the teeter-totter clothesline. Oh, he does the teeter-totter clothesline, and Owens takes the Rikishi bump, where he spins around, you know, all that shit. And Ambrose ends up hitting a superplex on Owens from the top rope. Oh, okay. Counters into a super kick. Alright, what happened here? Ambrose went for the dirty deeds. He went to stitch him up. Well, Owens spun out of it, threw Ambrose into the ropes to go for the pop-up. Well, he pops him up, and Ambrose lands and does him a Hurricane Rana. But as Owens gets up, he just super kicks Ambrose, and he caught Ambrose right on the side of the fucking face with this super kick. So that was a cool little exchange there. They go back up to the top rope, and it's looking like Ambrose is going to superplex Owens again. But Owens counters it, gets Ambrose up, and like turns it sideways almost into like a key crusher from the top rope. Holy fuck, that was big. After the 2 count off of that, the crowd, "This is awesome" chant. And then what happens is things start falling apart for Owens. He gets Ambrose down, and he goes for the top rope frog splash again. Well, Ambrose gets his knees up to counter it. And then after that, Owens winds up in the one corner. Ambrose is in the opposite corner. Owens comes charging to do his cannonball. Ambrose gets out of the way, so Owens just splats in the corner. He gets up and he's kind of staggered. Ambrose comes behind him, goes for the... Sorry about that. Owens is staggering backwards. Ambrose gets up, goes for like a schoolboy on him to roll him through. He rolls him through, lets him go, grabs him into the fucking dirty deeds, and plants him with that. 1, 2, 3. Ambrose wins. I think the crowd popped for it. So Ambrose wins. We got a good match. It was a good match. And Ambrose is just kind of standing there, kind of celebrating a little bit. After a minute, though, Ambrose turns around, eats a code breaker from Chris Jericho out of nowhere. Crowd booing, whatever the fuck. That's how Raw ends, with Jericho standing there, looking down at Ambrose. So, kind of a poor way to end Raw, but whatever, they gotta set up storyline shit. That's the end of Raw, like I said. So yeah. We'll go back over the matches as we always do. First match, we got a good one between Jericho and Sami Zayn. Jericho wins with a code breaker after a bitch eye poke. It was still a good match. Then we saw Enzo and Cass basically job out the Dudleys, although it wasn't really a job match or a squash match. But as soon as Cass got in, he cleaned the floor. He wiped the floor with the fucking Dudleys. Decent match. Enzo and Cass win with the rocket launcher. Johnny Fandango jobs to Baron Corbin, thanks to the End of Days. And after that, we got a nice 8-man tag match, an alright 8-man tag match. Cesaro and the New Day beat The Miz and the League of Nations after Cesaro hits a neutralizer on Sheamus. And then we got a not-so-good 8-woman tag team match between Natalya, Paige, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks versus Naomi and Tamina, Summer Rae, and Charlotte. Natalya gets the win from a sharpshooter, getting Charlotte to tap out. So we got that. And then the Vaudevillains beat the Usos in an alright tag team match with their finisher, the Whirling Dervish. And Apollo Crews jobs out Heath Slater in an okay squash match, I guess. Whatever. And then in the main event, Dean Ambrose manages to beat Kevin Owens with a nice Dirty Deeds, only to get code breakered by Chris Jericho. So that's the end of Monday Night Raw from April 18th, 2016, London, England's O2 Arena. Sorry, nose itches. Oh, god damn it. Anyways, that's the end of the Wrestling Rant tonight for Raw. Thank you guys for watching. Join us next time for the SmackDown video. Raw was okay, I guess. Just as long as Stephanie and Triple H and Vince aren't there. Basically, that's all I got right now. I don't have to put up with Giant Schnoz, Bitch Face, and Vince, so... And JBL on commentary all night. I miss the Authority. You would, you sack of shit. You should have left with them. You miss them so much, how about you go find them? Go find them and kiss their ass some. We'll get another guy on commentary. We'll get Mauro Ranallo on commentary. Anyways, that was the Wrestling Rant. Once again, thank you for watching. Join us next time for the SmackDown video. And we will see you next time for that. So thank you and good night. See you next time.